All right. Well, welcome to week 5. As always, please make sure your camera is on and that for now you are muted. And we will be discussing chapter 6. So we will go ahead and get started. So just remember to remove any distractions within limits. And we will do a quality check. So if you can see that it's recording in the upper right-hand corner, if you can see me and hear me, go ahead and just raise your hand real quick. Perfect, thank you. All right. All right, so chapter 6, upon completion of this workshop, students will be able to explain social, cognitive, and teaching presence. Students will be able to describe community of inquiry, and students will be able to explain the importance of metacognition. All right, so the community of inquiry. The COI framework focuses on the educational experience, not the meditating technology. There is a continued need for refinement to clarify understanding of approaches, and there also still remains a need for continued refinement as well as expanding our conceptual understanding of approaches to educational experiences. So the theoretical inquiry as well as practical inquiry is very important to creating and designing the foundations that inform educational practice and lead the way to any future developments that there might be. The theory has been described as a coherent and systematic ordering of ideas, concepts, and models with the purpose of constructing meaning to explain, interpret, and shape practice. So for this assessment activity, you guys are just going to be using the reaction/emojicons to answer the question below. How do you feel about collaborating with your peers on assignments? All right, so Lydia feels happy, Kara feels happy, I agree. Sometimes I feel like it just depends on the assignment, but for the most part, as I've gotten older, I do like to collaborate. All right, so coherent framework. The theoretical boundary to this framework is not limited to just online educational experiences. It also represents a deep area for further research and broader application. So pretty much the COI framework is not a learning theory, but it does include, it's adopted some different learning theories that provide a foundation as well as being consistent with different collaborative educational approaches. So social presence, a community of inquiry is collaborative and has a cohort-based approach to thinking and learning, which is a social constructivist paradigm. Sorry, I can never say that word. So social presence has to be seen as being directed to establishing an environment for open communication, as well as establishing purposeful group cohesion. This promotes deep and meaningful learning. So as we've learned the past few weeks, working together and collaborating really can help make that deep and meaningful learning that we want our students to obtain. All right, so for this activity, you will be using the annotation tools to draw an arrow to which answer you think is correct. So what type of communication is used in social presence? Is it closed communication or open communication? All right, Lydia said open communication. Perfect, Kara did as well. Good job, guys. All right, so we just went over the social presence, but now there's also a cognitive presence, which is referred to as the heart of the community of inquiry. A challenge of this presence is to ensure students move through the phases in a timely manner, which we know can be hard, but moving discourse through to the interrogation and resolution phases has been seen as an issue in early research, but it was later realized that this was largely dependent upon the nature of the learning tasks. So it was sometimes just hard for students to move through in a timely manner because, they might not have been engaged in the learning task or the learning task might have been too hard for them. So that definitely kind of went with how easy they were able to complete it in a timely manner. And then there's also teaching presence, which this type of presence is a multidimensional construct, and it has the task of maintaining a functional community of inquiry. It also is the most researched and best understood COI element in terms of importance. So the teaching presence, obviously teachers are very important, and that presence is the most important out of the ones that we will talk about today. All right, so for this activity, you're just going to use the chat tool, so not the text annotation, but the actual just chat box. And have you ever been assigned a learning task that did not engage you? So have you ever, had to do something where you're like, I'm just not engaged in this. It's going to be hard for me to complete it. Okay, yes, and I agree. I've also had assignments, where I'm like, I'm not engaged in this, and it makes it harder for you to complete if you're not engaged in the assignment. All right, so shared metacognition, when one has an appreciation for the inquiry process, the awareness of their thought process in a collaborative environment is greatly enhanced. So when, you're appreciating the whole process, it's easier for you to collaborate in an environment and really appreciate the collaboration. A study actually, or sorry, Successfully navigating the inquiry process requires willingness and ability to manage and monitor the intended learning goal, associated knowledge, and designed activities and strategies. So you have to be willing to work together and really wanting to be successful in order for you to move easily through the inquiry process. So co-regulation scores, a study showed that female students reflected higher co-regulation scores than males, and this is shown because women are more socially sensitive and participatory. A study also found that teams with more women outperformed teams with men. Women showed more co-regulation preferences, and they kind of came up with the question, like, do women have a greater skill for thinking and learning collaboratively? That's obviously there's not a right or wrong answer right now, but just from the studies, it shows that women are just a little better at working together as well as in group settings, just because we're more socially sensitive, and I feel like we're good at participating as well. All right, so now we will do the case study. So for this case study, you guys will both be joining breakout room 1 to work together. We'll be taking about 3 minutes to complete this case study, but you guys can, if it takes you a lot less, you can always just come back in and we'll just continue where we left off. But once we come back together, one of you will share your screen to show your Google Slides document and answer. So right now I'm just going to first share the link in the chat. Sorry, I had it copied, but then I went and copied something else. Give me 1 second. So I sent that, and then I will go ahead and start the breakout groups. And then, like I said, about 3 minutes, and if you get done sooner, you can come back in and we can just get started, but the link should be in the chat for you. All right, and then for my online students, you are just going to go ahead and click the link that's in the chat. It will take you to a Google Slides, and you're pretty much just going to answer the question on the Google Slides, and then you can just share that document with your missed class summary. So you'll be turning in 2 different things, the missed class summary and then the Google Slides with your case study answer on it. All right, welcome back. So I don't care which one of you shares. I don't know which one of you typed on the Google Slides, so whichever one of you can just share your Google Slides document with your answer for the case study. All right, and then Lydia, I will mute myself so that either one of you, whichever one wants to go over your answer.
I can, is that if that's all right? So we said that we thought that Group A would have a better score than Group B just because they have a better grasp of social presence because they were able to effectively communicate with each other. And we also said that we believe that no matter what gender there was in each group, whether there was more male or female, that as long as there are people that are willing to communicate, then their grade is going to reflect that. No matter what, because of the metacognition, they're going to be able to collaborate and like discuss things. But if you have people that kind of shut down in your group, they're not going to be willing to participate, then it might be harder. So.
Perfect. I totally agree with both of you. Hold on, let me see. I don't know if can I stop sharing your screen, or I don't know if you or
Oh, I can stop.
Oh, I got it. I got it. You're good. But yes, so exactly. So obviously it might be because there's more females, but at the end of the day, there's no study saying, like, oh, a group with more females is going to do better than males, because like you said, it really just depends on if you're willing to work together and really collaborate. But yes, the answer was Group A. Just in this case, since we just went over how the study kind of showed groups with more females kind of did better just because of their social presence and they're willing to participate. All right, so good job on that. And like we kind of just went over, caution must be taken with regard to gender differences, and it is important to recognize the importance of social presence in ACOI. So kind of like we said, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if you're male or female. You can't really focus on, oh, the girls will do better because it's a group of girls. All right, so conclusion. Studies show that social presence provides the environment for a cohort-based approach to thinking and learning, as well as collaborative approach. So pretty much social presence has evolved over time, and it's also focused on identification with the academic goals of a learning community. So, we always want to have goals, especially when we are teaching, just like how we have the learning goals or the I can statement. So that's very important. And then for this one, we will be doing a Slido poll. So first I'll read the question and then I will pull up the poll for you guys. So which of the following is an example of collaborating outside of the classroom? Walking the dog, wrapping a birthday gift, discussing dinner options for the week with your family, or going to bed at 8 p.m. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that Slido poll now, and then just choose whichever answer you think is best. All right, so you guys put discussing dinner options for the week with your family. Yep, you're working with other people, whereas all the other options were individually. You didn't have to collaborate with anyone to make those decisions. Perfect. All right, and then collaborative thinking. So thinking collaboratively requires like-minded participants to show their support in common goals, commitment to other participants, and appreciation of meaningful inquiry. The main idea of thinking collaboratively is to think for oneself, but in the context of others, so that the thinking and learning can be advanced through sharing and justifying of reasons. So obviously, when you're working together, you still want to have your own individual say and opinions, but you need to make sure you're keeping in mind your group members, and most of the time when you're working together, you kind of have the same goals. So it's important to make sure you're sharing your support when you're working collaboratively with your group members. And then lastly, we just have one more Slido poll. This one is, the question is, do you prefer to work individually or collaboratively with a group? So if you had the choice for the rest of your life in school to work individually or collaboratively, which one do you think you would choose? And I launched that one now. All right, so we have individually. All right, both of you said individually. Personally, I also would pick that. There's obviously, like we said earlier, there's cases where it is best to work with a group and collaboratively, but sometimes it's nice to just know you're just depending on yourself and you don't have other people depending on you, because sometimes that can be a little stressful. So I agree. I personally also would choose individually. All right, so that is it for week 5. Thank you guys for participating, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Okay.